Hello, friends, and welcome to the Contingent Esports Twitch channel. We are here with the premier team, the Contingent Esports Masterclass, up against Purdue Northwest in the UML. This is week 3 of competition. So far, both of these teams have been duking it out, doing super well. And right now, Contingent Esports looks to take down the top dog in Purdue Northwest, who so far has only dropped a single game. I'm Yarko on play-by-play here with Tiger on color. Welcome to the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here. And both these teams in the last week of the regular season, only a 3-week regular season here in UML, but looking to take that top spot. So we'll have to see who can come out on top here today.
Yeah, and already we're moving here into the ban phase, and we're seeing some meta champions getting knocked down a peg. We did get to the 12.19 patch, but a lot of these contenders still very much in the common discourse. Misfortune, Hecarim, and Maokai so far banned out.
Yeah, and I expect to see mostly meta stuff banned out here. I didn't see a lot of things. I was looking into Purdue Northwest's player pool. I figure that you will know the contingent esports players well, but I noticed that they're looking at playing some pretty aggressive top side, top lane jungle area, and maybe even some assassins in the mid lane. So we'll see if there's any priority around that in the draft.
Yeah, and to close out this ban phase, the Azir and Ornn going to pile on top of that Maokai for Purdue Northwest. Meanwhile, Contingent Esports taking away that Aatrox that has been so popular, and I'm kind of surprised that it's banned here by Blue Team, although they are going to that Udyr that Arland has been such a big fan of, most likely going topside into the hands of Cuddle Snuffles, who's really going to be appreciating those buffs to Q that came out in 12.19.
Yeah, that should help with some of the laning stuff. I think a pretty decent blind pick here. There's nothing that's gonna super hard dominate Udyr, and it's not going to allow a lot of the late game scaling that you might expect on something like a Kale to come in easily. And especially with Ornn banned, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Purdue Northwest answering back with that Trundle definitely has some flex potential, but mostly we've been seeing that in the jungle role for no use stink, and I imagine that's going to echo through into this first match between these two teams.
Yeah, I think Trundle definitely gives a lot of early agency in the jungle. You can look for invades, you can look for ganks. I'll be looking to see if they can add some gank setup in potentially the mid or top lanes to try to find some more early pressure on the map.
Yeah, and Purdue going to continue their picks here with the Sivir. This has been an AD carry that has kind of flip-flopped between top tier and just below top tier in the meta right now. We'll see how Contingent answers back in that bot side role. But one of the things to point out is that they haven't chosen their support yet. We might see something like a Yumi seal from Contingent Esports to try to cut down on the extent to which that lane scales.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that alongside the Jin being locked in here, though. Jin definitely wants to be with another poke champion in the lane, something that can activate some of that early game power that you get by picking up the champion. And I'm expecting some lane domination here in the bot lane from Contingent Esports.
Yeah, and they're actually going to pivot away from choosing bot side champions, and they're going to go for that Volibear. As I said before, we've been seeing Contingent Esports oftentimes put Cuddle Snuffles on the Udyr, so this is probably a jungle volley, but they're keeping things open, keeping things in a flexible spot, and Purdue Northwest answers with the Jax, who probably is going to be going topside. A lot of speculation in between the pivots that both of these teams could go for, but given the tendencies of these two compositions and also the fact that Jax hasn't really been meta in the jungle for a while, this is probably the troll in that lane.
Yeah, and then I definitely saw Soul Endrick playing a lot of Jax. Definitely the type of champion I'm expecting from him, and I think that that's going to lead to a matchup where we could see some stuff going on in the early game, and it will be interesting to see how deep of trades that both of these top laners want to take.
Yeah, Jax obviously fantastic scaling. I think a really solid choice up against the Udyr, who, like you said, is a very stable laner, does scale relatively well, but maybe not to the extent that Jax does. And Jax does get a little bit punished early, but can easily bounce back. And it isn't like either side has great kill pressure early. So this will allow the map to get opened up for both sides. We're moving into the bans now, seeing the Victor and LeBlanc taken away by Purdue Northwest. And meanwhile, Contingent Esports looking to focus down that mid as well. Seraphine knocked out alongside the Ari.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like an Oriana locked in here from Purdue Northwest. I think they'll probably pick their support first, but they're going to be looking at a mage in the mid lane. They've got a lot of AD between their first three picks, and I think that they're going to want to balance that out. And it would be interesting to see if they want to go with a tank support or an enchanter here.
Yeah, and actually, it looks like that with that hover, they're going for the support first. Renata Glass locked in, trying to put the counter pick pressure onto their mid lane. Purdue Northwest going to go for a very strong support champion right now. I think it goes very well with the Sivir. She's great at countering dive and engage style compositions. We'll see how Contingent decides to respond. They're hovering some interesting picks here. The Bard, the one they're stopping on. We'll see if Please Dodge Phil Jungle goes for it.
Yeah, I really like the Bard pick here. I think that into Renata Sivir, you want to pick something that goes along with the Jin well for taking out that lane. You want to see if you can get some kills on the board, especially when you've got a Volibear in the jungle. You want to be able to set up some of those ganks.
Yeah, and we're having a few discussions currently in the game chat about whether or not the Syndra lock-in is actually legal right now. Because of the mid-scope update, they are kind of still trying to figure out where this champion is in the meta. And so we're going to get that set up in just a few minutes with what the UML ruling actually is. But meanwhile, Purdue Northwest looking for their last pick, and they're going to lock in that Zoe.
Yeah, Zoe, a champion that I think that we've been seeing moving between mid and support now. Obviously, with the Renata, it's going to be the mid lane here. I think that they have for Purdue Northwest a substitute mid laner in ISO. So we'll see if that affects the strategy they have going into this game.
Yeah, and we're getting word from Prod that Syndra is in fact legal right now, but for some reason Oriana isn't. Not sure if there's some kind of odd interaction there, but regardless, Contingent Esports is going to stand with this draft. We're going to see exactly where they're going to align their lanes between that Volibear and that Udyr when we get into the client side of things. But for the time being, these are looking relatively stable. A few more comfort picks, I think, on Purdue Northwest side than we typically are seeing coming out of these top tier teams. That Zoe hasn't been meta for a while. I believe that they've gotten recently buffed though, and that could be a why ISO goes to it.
Yeah, and I think that for Purdue Northwest, they're looking at a lot of scaling, and even on the top side of the map. Trundle's strong early, but there's not a whole lot of follow up. There's not a lot of setup to work with that Jax to get kills, especially against Udyr and Volibear in the top side. But if they can get to some deep scaling, Sivir, Renata, Zoe, these are champions that you get into the late game and they become absolute menaces.
For sure. And if Trundle can, in fact, get one of these other champions ahead early, I think that Purdue Northwest can easily bypass that kind of awkward mid phase of the game by just kind of pushing for kills and getting an early gold start. Contingent Esports needs to watch out for that. Obviously, they have a lot of mobility across the map, especially with that Bard support pick. And I think that's going to allow for them to counter gank really exceptionally and just kind of zone the Trundle off of big plays early. But across the map, there's definitely a lot of tension. And I think we're going to be seeing some explosive fights around these neutral objectives in the first 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, what strikes me about this contingent comp is that it's got a lot of long range engage options between the tempered fate and the deadly flourish coming out. They can kind of land some CC from far away. And I like that they've balanced having bruiser front lines with having a backline that can set up the engage from a long range. Because with the Volibear and Udyr, if they were the sole sources of engage, they could run into some trouble. But I think that that kind of gets balanced out by having that option to throw in some long range abilities.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen Contingent Esports play to this style a few times in the past, and it's worked relatively well for them. I really like the fact that Pure Salt is going back to the Jin. They've been incredibly explosive on this champion, and I think that it's one that really plays to the strength of having something like the Udyr and Volibear. You kind of using your ultimate from across a wall means that you really are someone who's going to be engaged upon, but you provide tons of suppressive fire, tons of slowing in CC, and from there, champions like Udyr, who will occasionally have trouble getting on top of people, have a much easier time starting the fight in earnest. Jin, from that point on, can just kind of walk forward and actually get into the thick of things once they finish their R. And Bard, like you're saying, really plays well with that kind of strategy.
Yeah, so the real question here then for Purdue Northwest is if they will be able to find flanks in team fights, if they'll be able to set up a pick onto this back line. If they let it free fire, they could run into some trouble. But if Solendric can find a nice teleport behind the entirety of Contingent Esports, then that could make the fights look really scattered and start to favor Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really looking forward to see how this Jax performs, especially into that late game. We'll see whether or not Purdue Northwest is able to hold on to relative gold parity up until maybe the 25-minute mark. And at that point, they could really take over that game. Like you're saying, the Renata Glask also going to be a great means of primary disengage if Volibear and Udyr just start running at people. If they maybe don't have a fully coherent means by which to approach a fight, Contingent Esports can find themselves caught out because of the hostile takeover. And from there, pick potential very much on the table. Purdue Northwest have Zoe in the hands of ISO with Sleepy Trouble Bubble being used in combination with the CC that Renata provides. I think there's a lot of scary situations that Blue Squad could find themselves in.
Yeah, so with that idea that they want to stay even through the mid game, that is Purdue Northwest. For the side of Contingent Esports, what they need to do is build up some advantages in the early game. So I'll be looking to see if they can stack up some early Drakes in particular. I think that their bot
Mhm.
side is the strongest part of the map for them. So if they can pick up the first two Drakes of the game and start to force some fights where maybe they can get like 1,000 gold lead or something and try to explode that in the mid game. I think that's the strategy that they want to look towards.
For sure. I love me some good dragon fights. I love good setups around these neutral objectives. I love the vision game that you have to play to be able to do that safely. So that's what I'm going to be looking for as well, Tiger. That being said, for the time being, we have to throw it to a quick break before all of our questions are answered. We got to get through the spectator delay. But with that in mind, we are going to be back in just an instant. So don't turn that knob. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be back with a banger game number one. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Contingent Esports Twitch channel. We are here with the Contingent Esports premier team up against Purdue Northwest in the UML. It's been an exciting draft phase, and I'm looking to see how this new Syndra is actually going to play out in the hands of RE10. A lot of exciting picks in all of these lanes, but that being said, we're getting a pretty traditional 5-point start. No craziness so far in this series.
Yeah, so for all of you who may not know about the Syndra update yet, the deal is that her passive now gives splinters. Got a little bit of some action here, but nothing just yet. But the splinters stack up, and once she gets to certain levels, then that's when her abilities upgrade, where it used to be once they get to max rank, they upgrade. So we'll have to keep an eye on the splinter count, so that will let us know when she reaches her power spikes.
For sure, and we're seeing the Forbidden Syndra skin come out. The Justicar Syndra, typically banned in Riot tournaments, but here in the UML, it's free game. I don't think it's actually going to be much of a deciding factor, but it is a rare skin to see, so I'm happy that RE10 pulls it out for that little bit of a competitive edge in favor of Contingent.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that before. What's the situation? What's the buff that makes it banned in Riot tournaments?
Ostensibly, her spheres are harder to see, but because they're golden, I actually find that they're easier than the dark ones onto the often dark background of Summoner's Rift. But who's to say? Maybe just because it's different from her other skins, that's why people find it a little bit difficult to deal with them, or they don't really recognize them as Syndra orbs in the moment. But who's to say? Well, like I said, it's a rare skin, so I'm happy that it's coming out here.
Right, well, that's a nice little flourish, but I think that as far as the game is concerned, it will be more important to see whether RE10 can get the advantage in the lane just by getting some better CS and maybe getting some gank set up.
For sure. Already bot side, some heavy trading between these two teams. Pure Salt goes to about half health. We'll be able to drink their potions here. And Please Dodge Phil Jungle is kind of aware that health difference lies in favor of Purdue Northwest. They also have been getting poked, trying to grab bush control.
Yeah, and I think that we've got an interesting itemization choice. Picking the call start to Poner, maybe looking for a gank here as well.
Yeah, nice wraparound from No Use Stink, able to play out of the vision. Please Dodge Phil Jungle and Pearsall don't know what's going on. Immediate flash from Jin, but they're going to be knocked back slightly due to the utilization of that pillar, and First Blood goes over to the Renata Glask and Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, nicely done there, wrapping around on the gank, as you say, no using everybody committing flash in that bot side, so I expect that we're going to see some more action down there, but clean setup there, and they're able to execute Pure Assault.
Yeah, and immediately when they come back on the map, Please Dodge Phil Jungle going to move with Potato God into the mid lane. RE10 goes low, is ignited by ISO, but ISO has nowhere to run, and Potato God going to swat down the Zoe.
Already with some Bard gaming at level 2 going out for the roam. That is the signature Bard move going on that roam. I expect to see some more. Please Dodge Phil Jungle setting things up well there with the Cosmic Portal. And I think that getting a kill back on the board has to feel good after giving up that first blood.
Definitely. Contingent Esports with a nice bounce back there with that solid play mid, just freeing up RE10, who Syndra very much scales a lot more now, so it's good to see them try to focus them down, get a bit of an advantage over to them. Top side of the map, Solendric and Cuddle Snuffles going at it. Solendric trying to trade back. They have the wave with them, and that means that Udyr are actually going to go relatively low, staying at parity with the Jax.
Yeah, if he can avoid trading while the Corrupting Potion is ticking, I think that's the last stack of the Corrupting Potion for Solendric, so I think the potions will stack up better for Cuddle Snuffles as the lane continues, but not too much kill threat going on in the early stages there, whatever the case.
Yeah, more trading across the map right now. Jungler's opposite side, so this could be ripe time for a gank, but bot side, more trades come through. Pure Salt with a nice route down onto the Renata. Can't really follow it up, though, to Poner with the wave, doing a really good job continuing to zone out the Bard and the Jhin.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see such a big CS discrepancy in the bot lane, but Toponer already pretty far ahead off of the back end of the gank, I have to assume, but did Pure Salt lose 2 waves of farm to the tower there? That's a bigger effect of the gank than I had actually expected.
Yeah, and it's a rough situation, especially with the Sivir on the call. I almost said the Syndra. Too many S champions in this one, Tiger. We get a little bit of an engaged bot side of the map, but with the magical journey, please dodge Phil Jungle, able to get back over to Pure Salt, and things going to calm down. No use Stink just hovering around this lane, though. They know right now Toponer is the strong side.
Yeah, gotta play a little bit respectfully here. With that first kill having gone over to Udon Bidon, I think that it's not as threatening as it could be, but it makes it a lot more stable of a lane, because with that extra Ruby Crystal, it's going to be very much more difficult to poke down and kill either of the members of that bottom lane.
And we saw this rotation earlier. Please dodge Phil Jungle coming back up to the mid lane, but good ping from ISO going to spot out the Volibear, so there's no real way to push back in. RE10 with priority over the lane, though, and this means that Please Dodge Phil Jungle going to go deeper alongside Potato God. Here's the catch out deep into enemy territory. No use Stink getting ticked down on because of that Ignite. Here's the approach forward. Pillar going to stop Please Dodge Phil Jungle from really running on in, but now he's hit by the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and the collapse is happening. Toponer still at full health. They're able to pick up one. Please Dodge Phil Jungle from the backside after that flash. Still going to be punished due to ISO picking up what I believe was a spell shard there. So it's going to be a 2-for-1 play in favor of Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, they're able to collapse in the jungle. They're able to get the numbers advantage. I think that they moved 3 members towards that play. And a good initial invade, but just a little bit too deep trying to get that kill. If they could have maybe stolen the Raptors and gotten out. There's a pretty nice camp advantage for Potato God right now, up about 3 camps. But given that kill back over is not going to feel so great.
Yeah, and I mean, when was the last time that you actually saw Trundle Jungle farm well? I think that it is basically the bottom of the priority list for No Use Stink right now. They're happy to give up some of that priority in terms of their own gold income, especially to get Toponer ahead.
Yeah, definitely the call here. I have seen some Trundle Jungles try to carry before and take as many camps as possible. But that's not the case here, obviously. And working well to get some ganks towards this bot lane has gotten them ahead to a significant degree. But that's kind of been reflected on the opposite sides of the map, because the top side now for Contingent Esports is feeling very strong.
Yeah, for sure. And we still haven't seen a dragon taken. That might be why there's so much aggro across the map right now. If somebody wants to get priority over this mid, here's the chase down the river bot side. Meanwhile, top Cuddle Snuffles gets engaged on as well. We'll try to turn this around. ISO sent packing. Going to toss out the Q. Gets blocked by the Skeletal Crab. Potato God, though, hit by the Zoe E in response. He still slept. ISO able to get the revive off of the Renata W as well. They stay alive. They get a pick for Purdue. And now Potato God has nowhere to go. They're going to be taken out, and it's another smorgasbord for Purdue Northwest. They pick up kills across the map as topside also falls.
Yeah, that's one of the risks of going very skirmish heavy into a Renata comp, is that's a ton of poke damage coming out from ISO.
Holy
but
cow.
Whenever you have the Renata there, you've got to weigh the risk of trying to go all in on one target, and then that target gets revived, and then you just lose the fight off the back end of it. It could have probably gone even worse than it actually did, so you got to be at least counting your blessings a little bit there.
3 for nothing to scoff at, though, for sure, Tiger. Purdue Northwest very much in the lead here. We were seeing gold stay relatively even with a small kill advantage for Red Squad, but now things are fully in favor of Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, and it's going to be very difficult to respond to that because of the team comp they have. Like I said before, Renata can revive someone if you have to throw all of your weight behind trying to get the first kill of the fight. But also, the Zoe makes it so hard to walk up and get vision, and they could be seeing another punish here.
Yeah, please dodge Phil Jungle with a magical journey, but No Use Stink happy to take that fairy tale as well. The push forward continues. ISO moving down from the mid lane, but they aren't even needed. A chomp is all it takes, and the Bard's going to fall.
Yeah, this is starting to get a little bit out of hand. About 2,500 gold lead now going over. If we take a quick check at the individual gold, we can see that it's just little bit everywhere on the map. The most heavily being the bot lane, but now even the top side is pretty close to even. That kill going over to Soul Endrick doing a lot of work.
Ooh, ISO, all caught out though. Nice little claps for Potato God is going to give the kill to RE10, and Contingent Esports grab one back. They are still very much behind, about 2K gold in favor of Purdue right now.
Yeah, we're seeing a bit of River Bear going now, trying to look for a top gank.
Yeah, and we'll see if this approach is going to work. Wave still in favor of Purdue Northwest, and here comes the counter engage. Cuddle Snuffles needs to get out of dodge alongside Potato God. Here's the ult just for peel purposes. Potato getting back towards the tower, but Cuddle Snuffles not so lucky, and with the hostile takeover barely dodged, we will see one member top survive for Contingent Esports, but Purdue Northwest dominant.
Yeah, fortunate once again not to have it go any worse, and it just seems like everywhere that Contingent Esports are trying to make plays, Purdue Northwest are able to get one more member there and win on the back end of the fight.
Yeah, stun comes out. ISO moving back towards the tower, using their flash. Actually goes for the re-engage and a bit of damage on a please dodge Phil jungle, but RE10, it does have the burst, and so the Zoe has to play a little bit further back.
Yeah, Ignite dropped there, trying to go all in, ISO. Gonna be living dangerously once again, just feeling very confident right now. But the situation is kind of lending itself to not being that threatening to get a kill on the back end, knowing that the unleashed power is unavailable.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm really worried about right now is that Purdue Northwest's top laner, Solendric, is doing so well for themselves as that Jax up against the Udyr. They're staying even, if not a little bit ahead on CS. Now they're 2-0, and we talked about No You Stinking Company getting the scaling champions a gold lead early, and I think that Purdue Northwest is very much doing that right now. It's a dangerous situation all around. Taponer, though, maybe in trouble, pops to the R, please dodge Phil jungle, coming through, getting the slows down with their Q, with their augmented auto attacks. Taponer with the W, unable to get the revive. Please dodge Phil jungle so low. The handshake will finish them off, but Udon Bidon now needs to get out, and Potato God is here to chase down the Chem Baroness.
Yeah, nice play in the 2v2, able to chase down Taponer's Sivir, able to get those shutdowns over, and that's going to be an influx of gold that I hope on the reset is going to be enough for the Gale Force. Pure Salt looking to kind of even up the state and hopefully start looking to carry the team.
Yeah, and right now with no neutral objectives up, this is the time for Contingent Esports to just play for these lanes, trying to balance out of a little bit of the CS, maybe get a pick here and there, but just overall giving up a kill or two in the next few moments could be disastrous for them. We'll see how they decide to move across the map now.
Yeah, and with the first two Drakes being Ocean and Hextech, that means that there's kind of a mixed bag of available souls right now. You definitely wouldn't want to be giving up Infernal to a comp that has a Zoe on it, but all of them have their merits right now.
Ooh, Cuddle Snuffles getting hit by the old Bush Cheese topside. Solendric, full health, very scary on this Jax. They're going to hop back in, and I think that with the wave pushing, this could be a potential dive. Cuddle Snuffles needs to get out of here. Bard forced to use their own tempered fate to stay alive after ISO lands an E. And here's the dive I was talking about, the flash forward, and Solendric with one more empowered auto, able to get the solo bolo top side. Purdue Northwest continued to steamroll ahead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when even the tower cannot offer the refuge necessary. Gonna be a little bit of gold traded back as the turret plates mid are taken by that Rift Herald. But it's the just small pickings right now on the back end. 14 minutes takes over, and the first turret's probably going to go down top here, I would believe. Solendric just becoming more and more powerful. 3-0 on the Jax and almost completing that first item, which is going to be Blade of the Ruin King.
And all that tower gold over to the Jax. So scary to deal with. They're going to be a split pushing monster so early on into this one. ISO maybe caught out again. We've been seeing Potato God strong siding RE10 quite well. The burst comes through. Syndra grabs that one up, but the kill score still 6-4, or 6-10, excuse me, as we see more action in the river. Potato God pushes down with Bard's magical journey, but now the turnaround is at hand. Udon Bidon moving up into the river. Teleports being channeled by both sides. I think that we got a team fight on our hands, Tiger. Solendric from the backline looking for a way to hop down onto these blue squad members, but right now, Beaton needs to play careful. They have to W themselves onto the back line. Here's the push forward. Temper Fate not going to land true onto anybody. Volibear has to ult out, and Contingent Esports sent packing. They are able to stay stable, though, not give another kill over to Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, PNW able to survive. They did not have their Zoe for that fight. It was going to be a 4v5 if that continued any further, but they had enough threat, and now they're getting threatened once again.
And we've seen this play happen a few times. Please dodge Phil Jungle with the right on in with the E, trying to get down onto Toponer. There's the Gale Force forward. The flash, it's going to be a trade between the AD carries.
Yeah, nice flash to confirm the boomerang blade, but the 1-for-1 still in a situation where you're at a deficit is not the worst case scenario here, and I think that Contingent Esports are going to be just fine with that trade, and we'll see if they can stabilize the rest of the map. It looks like this next Rift Herald is going to be picked up by Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, and Contingent actually not ceding a whole lot of gold in the past few minutes, which is very nice. They are still losing priority in a lot of these lanes, and this is allowing a 4-red team to start up the second Rift Herald of the game. But right now, Contingent stabilizing a little bit. If they could start picking off some of these big champions from Purdue, I think that they have a way back into this game.
Yeah, they always have that pick potential that they're looking at. Ooh,
oh, that's scary. Yeah, good heads up play, though, by Please Dodge Phil Jungle to take the magical journey back towards the safety of Tower. And now No Use Stink, a little bit caught between a rock and a hard place, gets stunned up by RE10, but they got the team at their back. Temper Fate comes down, going to land onto No Use Stink. Solid spell shield by Toponer is going to allow for them to continue to hammer down onto the tower. Here's the push forward. ISO, though, goes to half health off that approach off of R.
I would have actually liked to see that Tempered Fate onto the tower to give it a little bit more time to bring in the rest of the members. It looks like they are going to go away from that play, though, just giving up that tower and going to try to farm up the waves and keep the gold at about 3.5k in favor of Purdue Northwest.
Bard ulti. So many possibilities. That's the reason why I can't play that champion. Too small for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole thing about Bard. He's got so much counterplay. I mean, we've seen 3 possible answers to the Sleepy Trouble bubble coming out. You can throw the Cosmic Binding, try to find the stun if you hop forward on the Zoe portal. You can self-ult to make sure that you go into the stasis and can't be immediately followed up on with the paddle star, or you can just go with the portal over the wall. So many different options to get out of trouble for Please Dodge Phil Jungle.
ISO hits the E onto Potato God. That's going to give them a little bit more time to move back towards tower. At the end of the day, though, they have to flash, which is unfortunate. That's another summoner spell gone from Purdue Northwest's side. And Contingent continuing to do a good job reasserting themselves on the map, even down this many towers. Although Pure Salt maybe too far forward on that one, gets picked off in that 3-mob mid. RE10 answers back bot side, though, with a kill down onto the Zoe. Cylindric looking for a pickup for themselves, though. But honestly, with that stun, it's going to be Udyr getting the shutdown as a return kill. And so with those 2 cross maps, I think that Purdue Northwest actually come out behind Contingent Esports.
Yeah, Contingent Esports haven't been afraid to keep scrapping, and they're going to do it again, it looks like.
Yeah, Please Dodge Phil Jungle have to just portal through the wall there to get out because of Trundle Pillar. And we see Purdue Northwest continuing to move up their vision line. They're looking to get dominance over this bot side river to pick up a 3rd dragon for themselves, looking to stack towards that soul as their win con.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the itemizations here. A little bit weird to see in the Night Harvester here for RE10. I haven't seen the updated Syndra builds, so maybe that's the meta, but I feel like Night Harvester has very few good applicators right now, and it just feels like it's outclassed potentially by Ludens or Leandries.
Yeah, we'll see what's going to happen with that itemization call. The push forward, the Temper Fate onto 2 members, and the meltdown RE10 going to be able to pick up 1 for basically no effort. Here comes the re-engage now from the far side. No Use Stink in a little bit of trouble. Has the Renata W onto them, but the revive is going to run out before they could do anything. And so that's 2 for free. Purdue Northwest lose priority over this dragon for the time being. All right, the re-engage coming through as well. Here comes the stun. Udon beat on W's onto their carry, but it's just going to allow the shutdown to go over to the Volibear. Renata falls as well. And please dodge Phil Jungle. The only casualty on Contingent Esports side is going to spell a huge turnaround. Blue Squad comes back in a big way.
Yeah, and the patience of Contingent Esports really being rewarded there. They've waited and waited to find this pick. They've been engaged on time and time again, but this time they're able to find the first kill of the fight. And from there, it was just kind of Purdue Northwest going in one at a time. It was a great job by Please Dodge Phil Jungle in a 1v1 against Solendric that was doomed to be a kill at some point, but he bought like 7 seconds and ended up dragging the Jax way out of the way of the rest of the fight. So I wanted to call that out, but a good team fight on the whole there from Contingent Esports.
And the reason why I kind of paused in the middle of that fight, cast Tiger, was because I didn't think Udon beat on Tepona were going to go back in. It was kind of a rough chain kill by them. They both die now, and this is going to provide a nice influx of gold and an almost even score now between these two teams.
Yeah, and picking up that first Mountain Drake is going to be important here as well to make sure that the soul stack doesn't come through. That much more difficult to kill when you're mostly burst champions. I mean, Jin and Syndra not noted DPSers, so Mountain Soul would do a pretty big number on the damage that they could get in.
Yeah, shutting down that stacking, really valuable. Contingent Esports buying themselves a lot more time and a lot more gold with which to fight. Obviously, Purdue still has some incredible scalers on their side, but Contingent for the time being showing life in them. And if they get another fight like that, that could be a Baron call. That could be the way that they get back out onto the map, start taking down some of these other tier 1s and maybe a tier 2 or so, and really beginning to establish their dominance across the Rift.
Yeah, and now some posturing being set up around Baron. That's a dangerous Sleepy Trouble bubble. You got to be careful because those can come from all over the place. I like them to see those being tossed out by ISO and trying to threaten any walk up to find vision.
It's a nice call by Purdue to not be scared even after that kind of a throw at Dragon. They are still very happy to play for river priority, play for their control across the map. They know that they have a solid presence because of their advantage in terms of towers. And right now, that's turning into a solid time to split push for Solendric, while everybody else just has to continue to walk up and contest the presence of Purdue Northwest near the Baron pit.
Yeah, these Sleepy Trouble bubbles, it feels like if one of them lands, it's going to turn into a kill, but it costs almost nothing to throw them out.
Hey, we talked about one of them landing. Potato God going to be able to move back towards their friends, though, in kind. But no, you see with the flash forward, they want to make sure that Potato God is nowhere near this Baron. Curtain call from the far side. Maybe can answer back against the Trundle, but nice shielding and a nice move through allows for Purdue Northwest to get out unscathed, grabbing themselves a free kill.
Yeah, and even though the sleep didn't actually activate, forcing the Stormbringer backwards took the teeth out of the fight, and now looking for a repeat. There's a lot of CC immuning from the side of Contingent Esports, both sides actually with some of that. So the Sleepy Trouble bubbles maybe can be withstood a little bit more than I was feeling like, but at the same time, that last one was able to score a kill.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about it yourself. Even if Sleepy Trouble Bubble lands and is CC immune, that's a big ability that, as you say, can knock the teeth out of a fight for Contingent. And so it's very tough for them in this situation where they are still behind to actually push back up against Purdue. And we're seeing that reflected in the ability for Purdue to continue to just hover rivers and try to let Contingent come to them.
Well, I'm taking another look in the itemization, and it's the first item Anathemas here for Cuddle Snuffles. I believe that's going to be applied onto Solendric's Jax for the side lane, but it really feels bad to have to buy that in the first item slot just to make sure that you aren't getting completely rushed down by this Jax.
Yeah, we are seeing a mobbing of Contingent Esports here into the mid lane. A next dragon going to spawn up relatively soon, and this is still a solid way for Purdue Northwest to force fights. They have priority, and they really do want to move towards a soul point soon so that they can really fully leverage the scaling that they have at their disposal. Temper Fate comes in. Spell Shield not going to be enough to prevent the Sivir from getting rooted on down. Here's the engage onto the backline with Potato God, but there comes the push back forward to Powder, revived off of Udon Beaton's W. They're able to pick up a kill, and Zoe wants to push on in here with empowered auto attack. They take down RE10. It's going to be a double-double for the mid laner Purdue Northwest. 3-0 overall, and a Baron call on the table for Red Squad.
Yeah, it looks like the quick response here is going to be to go straight to Dragon. We'll see if that can be taken here by Contingent Esports before the rest of the squad can rotate over for Purdue Northwest. They're just shredding this Baron up. The Drake is on the map, though, so we'll see. We might be getting a fight here. No, it looks like they're going to have to make the call to back away from this one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the Baron take so fast for Purdue Northwest means that they're able to rotate right back down and get themselves a dragon as well. Potato Gun, please dodge Phil Jungle. Unfortunately, able to do little but back in the face of the wave of 5 coming to the bot side.
Well, fortunately, picking up that last Drake means that this is only the third Drake going over to Purdue Northwest. But the next one you have to feel is going to be the spot of potentially a game-deciding fight here in the next 5 minutes. We'll see what resources can be picked up. And up against Baron buff, it's going to be difficult to keep the gold even at the state that it's at. And being down 6k isn't any glamorous show.
Yeah, we'll see how Contingent Esports wants to answer back against this big pressure coming from Purdue Northwest side now. Whatever lane they decide to siege up is going to be so scary to deal with, but please dodge Phil Jungle with the wraparound on the far side, and they're going to catch out 2 members of Contingent Esports. Here comes the hostile takeover over the wall, but it's going to be a bunch of a punch-up. Contingent Esports runs down the remaining members of Purdue Northwest, and No You Stink is not going to be able to stay alive. It's going to be a 3-0 so far. Solendric going to be caught in the blender. He gets the stun onto Pure Salt, but can't finish the job. Here comes the push forward. And I talked about a turnaround. We talked about what Contingent Esports needs to do to get back into this one. And this is the answer, Tiger. It's 2 more. It's the full ace for blue team.
What a play. What a flank from Please Dodge Phil Jungle, able to find 2 double cosmic bindings throughout that fight, and with the 5-for-0 they can now push. They are going to just about even the gold back up once again, and this game's been back and forth. These teams are trying their best, and they're finding some great plays and some great back and forth in this game.
Yeah, I can't believe the fight went as cleanly as it did for Contingent Esports. A huge gold influx was just in favor of Purdue Northwest, but unfortunately it wasn't quite enough. Solendric almost turned things around with that re-engage to at least pick off Pure Salt or something, but a flat 5-0 in favor of Contingent that far from behind with Baron buff wiped off the map means that this is now anyone's game.
Yeah, it seems like the recurring problem here for Purdue Northwest is that they aren't willing to give up any fight. If they give up the first kill, they usually want to follow it up, and that's kind of been their downfall when they've given over. Looks like the Tempered Bait got dropped there in the mid lane. Please dodge Phil Jungle. Once again, looking for some picks here, leading up. Still about 2.5 minutes before this Drake, so I think that it should be back up in time.
I am liking the early prep from Contingent Esports right now. I think it speaks to the fact that they understand this is the best shot that they got at getting back into this one and actually winning the game. As things go later and later, they don't have the scaling to answer back against the Sivir or the Jax. So really pulling the trigger wherever possible seems to be the name of the game, and I respect it.
Yeah, and I'm taking another look in the builds. Please dodge Phil Jungle is building some interesting stuff here. I think that that's going to be potentially a Frozen Heart. I'm not entirely sure what the Kindle Gem plus Warden's Mail builds into. But,
yeah, because it's Glacial Buckler and the Warden's Mail for Frozen Heart, so... Is it? No, it's not Zeus Convergence. I'm not really 100% sure what that build is going for.
Well, whatever it is, that's an interesting sort of build on a Bard. I don't normally associate Bard with tank items, but I guess that can make sense here. Bard can kind of build anything, and he still does the same Bard stuff. So, gonna have to see how that impacts the next fight coming up. But we can see that both AD carries are on 3 items, both mid laners getting close on that one. ISO a little bit behind actually, but the damage levels are at late game level now.
And I have to say, Contingent Esports are still behind 1 tower, but they've done so well to get towers where they matter most. The tier 1 is still complete topside for Purdue Northwest, but that means that bot and mid relatively even, and that means that they can push into the enemy jungle and make plays like this. Please dodge Phil jungle goes low, is able to bait the R out of Toponer though. Cuddle Snuffles needs to run away back towards River. Cylindric on the flank, look to hop on in. Potato God able to wheel their way out though, and now the stun comes through. RE10 gonna burst down the Jax. Here's the re-engage though with the hostile takeover. Cuddle Snuffles has nowhere to go, and it's now a raw 4v4 around this newly spawning dragon. Here's the engage coming through. Potato God just has to R on out of there with the Stormbringer. Deponer continuing to just boomerang blade away. They have the range to continue to zone off Contingent Esports, but another champion with range is Pearsall raining down Hellfire with that curtain call. Please dodge Phil jungle. A little bit overextended though. There's the cross up. ISO gets that one. RE10 answers right back though, going on a rampage by killing the enemy support.
Yeah, the health bars are so much higher for Contingent Esports, but they are threatened by this poke coming out from ISO.
Oh, ISO gets the sleep down onto Potato God. He's ignited as well. ISO goes golden in kind, though, and it's going to be RE10 with another shutdown. It's a fraught fight all around, but Purdue Northwest are now the losers of it. Pearsall with the 4th shot, able to kill the troll. The jungler's still up for Contingent Esports. Sleepy Trouble Bubble don't mean nothing. And Blue Squad going to continue to push back against Purdue Northwest's attempts at a soul.
Yeah, great job by Contingent Esports there, sniffing out where the trouble was coming from and squashing it out before it could kill them off. They're able to take that Drake. They're able to stop the soul from coming through, and Baron's on the map. It looks like they want to go towards it.
Gosh, I got so excited I bit my tongue in that last one, Tiger.
Don't do that again. We're gonna have another one coming up here.
Oh gosh, with more excitement on the map for sure. Contingent Esports see their opportunity. They're gonna start up the Baron Nashor, Udon Beaton, and Cylindric moving through the topside jungle. Here comes the approach into the river, but Zoe and Trundle are far behind on this one, and so blue team still with the numbers advantage, looking to burst down multiple members of Purdue. Here comes the scatter the weak RE10 getting Toponer low, and this is going to allow for another curtain call. The snipe from far away. Pearsall gets that one. RE10 picks up another ISO in the middle of everything, but he's going to fall too. Please dodge Phil jungle. No, you stink. Run down by Cuddle Snuffles. Pearsall for the far side, looking to come on in onto the troll. Cylindric, the last one left alive, and even they are zoned off of everything because of RE10.
The item that Please Dodge Phil Jungle built, it's Randuin's Omen, and by popping that at the beginning of the fight there, he was able to survive so much of the poke, was able to zone for the squad, and that led to them being able to take Baron pretty much uncontested, and then they turn on the fight. They still have high health bars, and they're able to push towards the mid lane with this Baron buff.
Tank Bard is Dank Bard. They turn that fight around, and now this is Contingent Esports' time to shine. They take down one of the Nexus turn. Here comes the second. Champions are coming up for Purdue, but can they stop the knockdown of the Nexus? Cylindric tries to get the revive, can't do it. The Jax is dead. Toponer tries to kite this out. Please dodge Phil jungle, though. Going to answer back and get a kill for themselves. Here comes the hostile takeover. ISO, though, in the death ball. W comes through. They get the revive, but it's not that much health. Potato God going to remain alive. Here's the push forward once more onto the backline. Udon Beaton is gone, and no, you stink. The last remaining member of Purdue Northwest trying to keep the game alive, trying to keep up hope for red team, but they can't do it. Please dodge Phil jungle, wrapping around the far side. It's the slow death by 1,000 cuts from the Bard autos. No, you stink can't get on top of this support, and now Potato God is going to pass off and start attacking the Nexus as well. No, you stink can't do anything to stop this. There's nobody up to help them, and first game's gonna go over to Contingent Esports.
Yeah, such a good hostile takeover there by Udon Bidon, but it's just not enough. And at the end of the day, Contingent Esports with a well-deserved comeback victory in game number 1.
Wow, what an incredible game. Contingent Esports behind against a scaling composition, but they are able to hold on, and Purdue Northwest crumble in the face of a few rough team fights. An incredible display of coordination from Contingent, and they're able to take a game off the top contender in the Ocean Division of the UML.
Yeah, if they can win game number 2 here, they have a legit shot at being the number 1 team going into playoffs. That would be absolutely massive. But as far as game 1 goes, they may have been outscaled, but there was no point in the game where they couldn't one shot someone that they picked out. So that was the real benefit of drafting the way they did. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go towards similar picks in game number 2. But for Purdue Northwest, it'll be interesting to see if they want to change up their strategy or if they want to say that they just misexecuted and they could have had an opportunity to win with some of the game states that we saw this game.
For sure. And from the eye in the sky perspective, I do think it was just a matter of misexecution by Purdue Northwest. They showed that they're an incredibly strong team with great team fights, great setup across the map. I think that their macro calls were overall very good, but there was just the occasional mispositioning by ISO and company that really punished them. Contingent Esports just able to execute flawlessly here in game number 1. And as you said, Tiger, I too am excited about this matchup. I think that Purdue has a lot of possibilities in this next draft, and we'll see how Contingent responds and how they continue to grow in this series. We're going to throw it to a quick break, but when we return, it'll be game number 2 between the Contingent Esports Premier Team and Purdue Northwest. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Contingent Esports Twitch channel. We are here in the UML, and Contingent Esports currently up 1 game versus Purdue Northwest. It was a big turnaround with some explosive fights there in that mid to late game. And Tiger, I gotta say, Contingent Esports really looking to stun and shock Purdue Northwest, going to continue to stay on red side here, and bans remaining exactly the same as they were before. So we'll see if we're gonna get the salty run back.
Yeah, I always love salty runbacks because I like teams saying that they think that their draft was fine and they just misexecuted, and that gives them the chance to come back and show that they can make the adjustment that they need to come out on top of the what would otherwise be the same game.
Yeah, and already Contingent Esports just going to return to that Udyr top side of the map versus Cuddle Snuffles. Solendric did get ahead early in game number 1. Luckily, the answer back was that Purdue took a few rough fights, were caught out a bit, and so Solendric ultimately wasn't able to team fight or split push as well as they desired. But this is still scary, and I hope that Cuddle Snuffles will just stay a little bit more stable there for this second match.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind that the Udyr is a flexible pick. Could be looking towards jungle, even mid lane if you want to get spicy with it. But so far looking kind of reminiscent of what we saw in game one. Going to be changed up here though. The Kaisa lock in for Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, I'm liking the Kaisa very much rising to the top of the meta more recently. I think that she does a great job, especially when you're building towards more dive oriented compositions. Definitely a little bit more early game oriented than the Sivir as well. Doesn't have to play as hands off. And we'll see if that's going to change up what they go for as the support as well. Contingent Esports going to answer with a hands off champion in their own right, though. It's the Varus and the Volibear following it.
Yeah, we've got some similar slots, but different picks. So we've got still ADCs in both second slots here. And I think that making the adaptation in the bot lane from Purdue Northwest, looking at last game and saying, you know what, we wanted the hyper carry. We still want to go with the hyper carry, but instead of the Sivir, we'd rather have the Kaisa to help dive in on the back line.
And Syndra going into the hands of Purdue Northwest this time around. ISO saw what RE10 was playing with and said, give me some of that. So they're going to grab it for themselves now. And in the ban phase, the Jacks actually getting the axe.
Yeah, I think that when I tried to hover Syndra last game, I couldn't see any indicator of how many splinters there were. Obviously, RE10 found a way to stack them up really quickly, but it could be a little bit more difficult unless I see something that I wasn't before to know just how strong the Syndra is. And I wonder if that's an issue for the players as well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see exactly how Riot is going to continue to adjust and tweak that champ also for accessibility purposes, like you're talking about. But we saw from game number 1, they're definitely scary, great scaling, great CC, and really explosive damage if you get caught out. So Purdue are really going to do a good job kind of building upon ISO's playstyle. We saw them on the Zoe for game number 1, and I think that this is actually a relatively similar pick in terms of the way that they played that game out.
Yeah, the Syndra definitely has a lot of poke potential as well. A little bit more solid CC coming straight up with the QE combo. But I think that locking the Shen in here, we see in the bans that it's a very big pinch on Solendric's pool, taking out the Aatrox, Jax, and Riven. So the Shen's a little bit more utility, a little bit more team oriented. So we'll see if that helps a better chance for Toponer to carry.
And hello, we got the Tom Kench locked in, going to probably the support role for Please Dodge Phil Jungle. That's an interesting selection. It's not something that I see a whole lot outside of a Senna lane. And so picking it here definitely seems like a call that Contingent Esports was preparing for. And Please Dodge Phil Jungle must be confident on the champion, but also the Zillion coming out here. I think that because we saw the Lissandra hover, this is going to go to RE10, but it could be something like Tom or Udyr mid. Maybe they heard the spice you were talking about, Tiger.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see something like that into a Syndra, though. I think Syndra really is benefited by the ranged into melee matchups, so I would expect to see the Zillion mid. But with the triple bruiser comp here for Contingent Esports, if they get ahead, they could become nearly impossible to kill, especially when they're backed up by that chrono shift, allowing them to survive through an initial burst.
Yeah, PNW going to choose the pretty defensive supporter with that Brom coming through just to answer back against the Tom Kench support. I like this choice. I think that is going to provide a bit of peel, a bit of reduction against the value of Tom Kench's abyssal dives for engage, especially given that Potato God was focusing bot pretty heavily in game number one. But overall, I think that Purdue Northwest have to be happy with their Trundle pick into this match. There's like three different people that you can put your subjugate onto, and you're going to become incredibly tanky because of it.
There's kind of a clash of what I've saw from the first game in terms of style of these two teams and what I'm seeing in the draft here for game number 2, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of potential for either of these teams to go all in and get a lot of kills before we get to that late game 5v5 setup. But I saw a lot of skirmishing coming out from both of these sides last game. They weren't afraid to go for invades in the enemy jungle, weren't afraid to look for ganks, roams. Anything that spilled blood was on the menu for these teams last game, but I'm not sure that that can happen so easily here in game 2.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how this early game plays out, especially now that Purdue Northwest, while still very much scaling oriented because of the Syndra and the Kai'Sa's still going to pop off, they are a little bit less advantaged there in the late game, especially versus something like the Varus, and Zillion will provide so much value for any of these champions that gets ahead.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I think that not only the chrono shift is threatening, but being able to speed people up is going to be big throughout this game. So if we ever see, especially Cuddle Snuffles getting ahead, I think could be a really big advantage here for Contingent Esports. So I would look to see if they're going to put pressure on the top side of the map, try to get the advantage there. They do still have the option to go and try to play around Pure Salt in the bot lane once again, though.
Yeah, and when you talk about that kind of equation where Cuddle Snuffles getting ahead really could advantage Contingent Esports, it makes the Shen pick a little bit confounding to me. I understand that having that teleport, having the ability to enter into fights and immediately imbalance things is going to be great for Purdue Northwest, especially because you have so much damage focused on two of your carries. But Cuddle Snuffles, I think, is just going to have so much easier of a time getting through and becoming absolutely monstrous on this Udyr. And with that QMax build that we saw, I think that this is really a champion that can easily pop off and carry for a blue team.
Yeah, it would be interesting to me to see what build Solendric wants to go on Shen, because you can go towards a hyper utility focused build or just a tank build in general. But I think you could get some bruiser stuff in there as well and maybe play a little bit more towards the lane. I don't think that Shen's a bad laner at all. I think that into Udyr it's going to be a little bit difficult because Udyr can put down some AoE damage that can hit
Mhm.
through that spirit refuge. But I do think that there's an opportunity to see some back and forth in this top lane. So if No Use Stink feels like there could be some 2v2 action going on up there, they could look to try to flip the matchup and actually get ahead themselves.
For sure. And I mean, hey, no use. Sting loves the 2v2 action. They like the 3v3 action bot side too. They like the 5v5 action around dragons. They love ganking. They love getting their team ahead early. So, once again, eyes are going to be on that Trundle and that jungle role. We'll see how Potato God answers back in this run back of that matchup. But for the time being, I imagine that it's going to be Contingent Esports, maybe with a little bit less priority early still, just giving up and making sure that the Trundle is going to, eventually tamp down a little bit, get calm, and from there you can start really pulling the trigger and getting some explosive fights. Regardless, though, Contingent Esports and Purdue Northwest are going to head on into the game, and we have to head on into a break in the meantime to wait out the spectator delay. We're going to throw to a quick one. Time to go grab a snack, go grab a drink, but don't change the channel. You guys will want to be here for this one for sure. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Contingent Esports Twitch channel. We are here with match number 2 between the Contingent Esports Premier Team and Purdue Northwest in the UML. Contingent Esports back on the blue side, back with the Udyr, back with the Volibear, and they're looking to get a quick 2-0 to move to maybe the top of the division here versus Purdue Northwest, who are currently the front runners themselves.
Yeah, and it's important to point that out because we're looking at a situation where the reality is that if you get into the top 2 seeds, that's what you're really looking for, because the top 2 seeds get to go to the upper bracket of the playoffs. There's a very long playoff format, despite there being only 3 weeks of regular season. We'll see if anything happens here.
Udon Bidon kind of getting mobbed. Please dodge Phil jungle with that tongue lash, able to slow for so much up against the Braum, who's going to be ticked down to about half health off of Pure Salt's autos. So that's solid poke. Not going to turn into much of anything, though. The Braum just has to back for the time being.
Yeah, to finish that thought, if Contingent win this game, they guarantee that they'll be ahead of Purdue Northwest. So that would mean that they make top 2 at the very worst situation. But losing this game, Purdue Northwest will likely be ahead of them no matter what. So this is going to be a situation where winning the series is good, but really winning this game in particular is very vital to getting in that top 2 seeding.
And I gotta say, Tiger, they have chosen some interesting champions with which to try to go for the 2-0. We got Please Dodge Phil Jungle on that Tom Kench alongside Pure Salt on Varus.
Yeah, and I think that the Tom Kench makes a lot of sense here as a response to the Kaisa in particular. You're looking at a situation where you want to protect your 1 to 2 damage dealers here from getting one-shot by the Syndra Kaisa combo. And if you can do that for long enough with the Zilean, with the Tom Kench, then you're going to be in a good position for any big team fights.
Cuddle Snuffles topside gets that level 2 push and has the health advantage up against Cylindric for the time being. We're seeing No You Stink, though, cheating up there, and they're going to be matching Potato God, so we'll see if any gank setups will actually come through. Right now, across the map, though, it's everybody just feeling one another out while the junglers complete their first clear.
Yeah, I think that we saw a pretty much full clear from Potato God last game, but this is a little bit of a change up for No You Stink, going for a little bit more passive play style in the early stages here.
Yeah, and we'll see how that serves them. Purdue Northwest's jungler was a big reason why I think that they got ahead so well so early. That being said, Potato God pulling the trigger. No, you seeing so low, flashes over the wall, is able to dodge the push forward. Potato God also burning that summoner spell. But Contingent Esports coming out on top with that skirmish in the river, and that's going to give them solid priority as we see the Volibear starting to take those Raptors, and they may actually look to collapse down onto the Syndra.
Yeah, I think that No You Stink kind of trolled himself with that pillar there, kind of locked himself into a fight, and the Sky Splitter was guaranteed to land for both the shield and the damage. So Potato God with a good invade there, and once again trying to pull ahead on the camps early on.
For sure. Cylindric trading back pretty heavily against Cuddle Snuffles for the time being. RE10, no mana up against ISO, and they are taking a beating in that mid lane. But Potato God, we talked about them hovering that lane, is actually going to move topside and look for the gank up against this Shen, who's going incredibly low. That being said, Cuddle Snuffles is going to go tick down to below 100 health as well, but he stays alive with that shield, and it's going to be first blood for Contingent.
Yeah, and that was a pretty deep trade to go for from Solendric, knowing that No You Stink was on the opposite side of the map. Now No You Stink is trying to come towards this top side. Looks like it's going to be sniffed out in a time, though.
Yeah, and I mean, Cuddle Snuffles really cannot overstay. They had to let Potato God help with the crash. Cylindric TP's on in, and that's going to give enough time for Cuddle Snuffles to just get back to the safety of the tower and back towards Fountain. So even after that big trade, they will be able to come on back, and we'll see what the wave lands them. For the time being, though, mid and bot, just in the raw isolated matchups, going pretty well for both sides. There's definitely a gold lead for Contingent Esports right now, and they have a small CS advantage in the bot side. Mid, though, going about as expected. ISO really bullying the Zilean.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected these lane states to be more advantageous than game one for Contingent Esports, but they're doing much better in the CS department in top and bottom. They're even getting a lead for Pure Salt and looking to play aggressively on this Vars. I do notice that it's the lethal tempo Vars, so I think it's going to be that on-hit, more scaling variety instead of the lethality or AP versions.
And I think that's a good call. I think going for scaling here is really going to be valuable for Contingent Esports. It provides them solid insurance there into the late game to answer back against opponent. And we already saw the Contingent can hold their own if they go behind a little bit early on. And so I much prefer what they're going for there. RE10 going to be hit by that scatter the weak, and they go low, but they stay alive. They are still not level 6. They didn't even have the chrono shift to save them, but they will get out of the lane. But ISO becoming a problem.
Yeah, ISO getting a lot of value out of this Syndra as well. Syndra maybe going to be a champion that we'll have to look at as some high priority going into the rest of this matchup and maybe into the future as well.
Yeah, you see ISO with the repel against Potato God. Cuddle Snuffles has to flash out topside up against Solendrick, though. And now they are just waiting for the wave to push into them. But this Shen, very scary now. And it's going to require some assistance from Potato God to turn this lane around.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to try to find the honey fruits to get back into a good situation, but Potato God may be looking at a gank mid lane. No mid laner to gank for, though, so not going to be able to find anything there. And the Dragon Take going a little bit against the grain in favor of Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, it looks like right now Contingent Esports actually flipping the script, going much more aggressively towards focusing down lanes early than Purdue. So Purdue takes the opportunity to pick themselves up the Dragon. Big play bot side, nice Abyssal dive from Please Dodge Phil Jungle will take out both the cleanse and the flash from Toponer.
Yeah, so when you get knocked up, for anyone who doesn't know, you can cleanse it, but the cleanse doesn't let you start moving. It only lets you use your flash to get out of it. So both cleanse and flash forced out there.
Cuddle Snuffle staying in lane, playing brave with the deep trade like you were talking about, Tiger. Here comes the claps on in. Cuddle Snuffle's trying to play around the backside. Potato God with a full bar of health. And this time the kill goes over to the Udyr.
That Iron Mantle is so brutal. You cannot kill off this Udyr, even at low health. You can put up the shield. You can stack up the Conqueror and get some heal. No use Stink with kind of a deep flank here. We'll see if this can lead to a dive in the bot lane. The wave's pushing out away from Contingent Esports, and they're going to have to show a lot of restraint to play this out safely.
For sure. How close is Tom Kench to level 6? Because I think that's going to be a deciding factor if we can actually even get a dive for no use Stink, because our saving the Varus could really spell doom and gloom for this attempted 3v2.
Yeah, not going to get 6 off this wave, I don't think. I checked the XP about half.
All right, and here's the approach. No use Stink, gonna pull the trigger here. Abyssal dive gets blocked by the E. Please dodge. Phil Jungle unable to get out of that one. Pearsall flashes back towards the tower, and here comes the collapse. Volibear is going to rotate through the Tribush as well. The flash forward. Here comes the Skybreaker. RE10 coming down river as well. So Pearsall gets one. Solendrick going to channel the Stand United to come on in. Potato God gets resurrected off of the Chrono Shift, and now it's going to be a 3v2 in favor of Contingent. The triple kill to Pure Salt, and Udon B Dawn is just gone. They have to hide under tower as Contingent comes out ahead.
Pure Salt piercing the heart of Purdue Northwest with the triple kill, and it just took too long for that gank to develop. It allowed the rest of the Contingent Esports to show up in that bot lane and turn the tide of the fight.
Yeah, please dodge Phil Jungle. The Sacrificial Lamb took a lot of abilities their way, and that opened up the ability for Pure Salt to linger in lane. And now we're seeing the 1v1 between the support and the mid laner. Here's the spit out. Please dodge Phil Jungle. Gets hit by Scatter the Weak, but ISO goes low, has to flash out from that tower aggro. But now Cuddle Snuffle's topside maybe in a bit of trouble here. They're in the mob. They are unable to get around the far side of the Trundle E, so no use Stink answers back for one in favor of Purdue Northwest, but they got a mountain to climb now. They're down more than 2,000 gold.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a silly death coming out from Cuddle Snuffles, trying to invade, maybe trying to steal away some Krugs, but at the end of the day, that's just way too overextended, and no use Stink able to show up for the punish, and now looking for the Rift Herald on the back end of that play.
Yeah, solid play. Purdue Northwest rotating topside. Potato God and RE10 are at the crime scene, though. We'll see whether or not they'll actually want to contest this one as Cylindric gets more priority in that wave. Cuddle Snuffles is back up onto the Rift and running top. They are here, and now actually it looks like a handoff. I think Contingent Esports is going to get this eye, and from there, they're going to save what was a rough death by Cuddle Snuffles.
Yeah, that's where you just go in all chat and say hot thanks for leash, and a nice little play there to push out the enemy lane, and picking up that Rift Herald, that kind of opens up the opportunities here. You can immediately drop it top lane and take the rest of the tower. You can look to push it towards bot lane and pick up the next Drake. Really, any lane's a viable option here. I think mid lane is the least likely, but always a good default to try to start taking that mid lane tower and opening up the map.
Yeah, next Dragon coming out as well, so priority going to be the name of the game here. Please dodge Phil Jungle returns to the bot side of the map just to make sure that Pure Salt will be positioned correctly and able to push this wave in safely as Volibear actually starting up that neutral objective. Here comes the push down from RE10. ISO though with river control for the time being. We'll see if we're going to get the wrap on up. No use Stink also preparing to go in. Here comes the engage as well. The push forward. Please dodge Phil Jungle. A little bit caught out. And Braum doing so much to shield up their members. And with the rift coming down to Poner, able to get the first kill of this fight. Pearsall goes low, has the R put onto them, but they're just getting ignored. They're able to get a kill, but even off this resurrect, it's going to be 3 picked up for Purdue Northwest. Dragon goes over to Contingent for the time being, and Cuddle Snuffles gets some progress topside, but this is a nice turnaround and solid chunk of gold back over to red team.
Yeah, it looks like it's about an even trade overall as far as gold goes, but getting the dragon will be nice for Contingent. But on the other side, a lot of those kills went over to the big carries, Toponer and ISO picking up multiple each, and now they're going to be in position where they can look for some more of these fights. 4 stacks on the Dark Seal for ISO, so we'll have to track that and see if it can continue to stack up.
I think it's going to be a cross-map carry battle this game for sure, Tiger. We got ISO very much fed 2-0, stacking up that Dark Seal. Pure Salt, though, 4-1. They were the person who got the kill in the last team fight for Contingent. And so, honestly, at the end of the day, this is going to be a tough game for both sides. Very dependent upon how they play the vision lines, how they go for picks, because these are squishy champions that hold all the gold and all the power. Here's the engaged topside, though. Potato God comes on in. It's the 2v2 so far. Cuddle Snuffles being ticked low, but you talked about it before, Tiger. This Udyr so damn tanky. He's going to continue to stay alive, and Cylindric can't land the last auto. Cuddle Snuffles comes in, has the shield, just trying to help burn down the last 2 ticks of health for Cylindric, but here's the turnaround now. Shen goes in, but he's going to get stunned up by Potato God, and so that will be another kill picked up for Contingent Esports.
Oh, Cuddle Snuffles is hanging around there so long, just baiting Solendric to go back in. Eventually is able to get the ego play. Now mid lane looking like a fight.
Yeah, RE10 pops the R on themselves. ISO just going to withhold any of their abilities for the time being. Their souls are going to despawn, and Potato God gets hit hard, but is going to be able to drop the Rift Herald in time, and that charge will net them a solid chunk of gold from those plates.
Yeah, I think that there was a recent update. I know that Syndra used to be able to W the Rift Herald. I think that got removed, though, so I think that was the change, not the other way around. I saw the W go down, I thought for a moment, oh, is that troll? But I think that it's fine. ISO is still looking pretty threatening, though, on the Syndra.
Yeah, no, that's the scary champion to watch out for. I think that Purdue Northwest have their win con in mind now, and even though they're behind about a 3,000 gold right now, if not a little bit more, I think right now they're handling themselves very well, and it's still a rough call to really go for any true 5v5s between these two teams.
Yeah, and if it was difficult to get kills earlier, it's going to be even more difficult to kill Pure Salt now, completing that immortal shield bow, and looks like there may be a 3v3 to be had.
Yeah, here's the push forward. Immediate cleanse comes out of Toponer to stop the binding from going down from Pure Salt. Potato God continuing to push into River, though, just bullying away No, You Just Stink. Sorry, for some reason I could not read that name for a second. But regardless, yeah, right now Purdue Northwest trying to look for a play, trying to look for a pick, but really Contingent Esports answering back super well. Great rotations across the map. We'll see what will continue from here as maybe ISO has bit off a bit more than they can chew. They still have the flash available. They're going to flash forward down onto RE10, but he has the ult back up in time to actually get Chrono shifted out of that one, and so that will be a dead Syndra, and Purdue Northwest getting bullied across the map, and the Q site comes through for Pearsall up against Toponer.
Yeah, that's always the threat with the Varus, and Potato God's looking for more.
Yeah, Udon B. Don is in a whole lot of trouble. The Thunder doesn't even have to arrive. Potato God is just going to smack down onto the Braum and get a third uncontested kill over to Contingent.
This has gotten from bad to worse for Purdue Northwest. About 6K is the gold lead now. Across the map, if we look at the individual golds, we've got pretty big deficits in top and jungle and even in bot lane. So just the mid lane is the reversal. ISO going to be up about 1,500 gold. And that's the only area of pressure that Purdue Northwest has on the map.
For sure, and at the same time, RE10, while very much behind on CS, they've kind of done what they needed to. Pure Salt is the carry, and they're just able to run into any fight and just are this Varus. Here's the push forward. Potato God crashes on down, forces the flash out of No You Stink. Dragon spawning up. We'll see how these teams will want to contest this one. Shen staying topside, has to stand united, though, so this is basically a 5v5 for the time being as everybody jockeys for position around this next Dragon.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an engage to be had here. No You Stink might just be caught out.
Yeah, Cuddle Snuffles gets claps on Udon Vidon coming around the far side, but it's the CC immune. It's going to allow for the Udyr to move back towards their team, and RE10 gets in range to pop the R down onto this champion. Look at how tanky he is, and please dodge Phil Jungle with the hero play, swallowing up the man Bear Pig. Has to flash back out from this fight in the river, though. Purdue Northwest still has a lot of damage on their side, and we'll see if Contingent wants to go for the re-engage. They are now down a top laner, so it's a 4v5 for the time being, but one of those members is Pure Salt, who is so tanky and still at full health, and here comes the cross-up from the far side of teleport channel. This is a flank that Red Squad was not expecting. Pure Salt going to decimate the team with the double-double, and Contingent Esports continues to cement their lead.
Pure Salt is untouchable. There's no way you can take out this Varus. There's just too much support. The front line does a great job getting back into that fight and able to get out Cuddle Snuffles alive from the initial engage. That is what makes this play. The TP back in, and it's just such a great turn from Contingent. They're even able to sweep up the first Cloud Drake of the game, and everything's turning up Contingent Esports right now.
6,500 gold in favor of Contingent Esports right now with a composition that scales magnificently. These aren't the dire straits that we saw them in game number 1, Tiger. They're asserting themselves across the rift and coming out atop every time.
Yeah, now they've just got to be careful not to throw it back. We saw a lot of back and forth in game number 1, so there's always an opportunity for Purdue Northwest to find ways back into this game. They've got a bit of pick, but as we've already seen, it's just so hard to kill anyone off on this Contingent comp.
Yeah, and already Contingent Esports just going to dogpile down onto Shelly. They're ready to bait another fight. They got the gold. They got the advantage at their back. Zillion is splitting bot, so this might be a bit of a tough one in a 4v5, but we'll see if the gold deficit's going to be able to help it. Pearsall has a flashback out of this one, is able to dodge the Braum ulti. Udon B. Dawn is the first one dead for Purdue Northwest, and now everybody's caught in the blender. Cylindric unable to get out alive, and No You Stink is going to donate another kill over to the Udyr Fed Fund, and now it's going to be the Rift Herald claimed up as well. So Contingent Esports continue to dominate this game.
Yeah, the Udyr Fed Fund is looking less like a charity right now and more like a tax shelter.
Wow, Pure Assault going to be saved, I believe, by the shield bow proc, if I imagine.
Shield bow
But that
didn't
was
proc there.
scary. Oh wow, how did they not get melted?
There's just not enough damage. ISO even is falling behind, still only on 1.5 items, and the levels are enough. Level 11 Varus apparently tanky enough to take the tier 2 ultimate coming out from Syndra.
Yeah, that was crazy. It could have also been the exhaust that contributed to it, but I really just expected, maybe I'm just, you know, attuned to solo queue AD carries, him just getting bursted or one-shot there, but that's another really solid silver lining for Contingent Esports. They make sure that they aren't giving that shutdown that the Varus has now accrued over to the main carry for Purdue Northwest right now.
Yeah, so they've picked up the second Rift Herald now, and with this big advantage, I'd expect them to drop it around the spawning of the next dragon, but they really have opportunities if they find one pick to even look to end the game with this Rift Herald, I have to feel.
Yeah, and I mean, really, Contingent Esports, the only reason they aren't steamrolling ahead even further is that it was too early in the game to claim the Baron Nashor. They just had to settle for the Rift Herald. So Purdue Northwest now very much on the back foot. They're down about 8,000 gold right now. RE10 now confident enough to actually go for the 1v1 versus ISO. They throw the grenades on down. Potato God with the rotation from the river. Here comes the stun. RE10 still just looking to stay alive, but they've done their part. They are going to give Potato God the ability to run down the Syndra, force the ultimate out of Shen, and so Contingent Esports expressing so much pressure across the map right now.
Yeah, to be able to force out the Stand United and ISO's flash leading up to this next dragon spawn, that is just so much value that's taken away. It's that much harder to find the pick, but Potato God could be in trouble, except that the tier 1 tower bot is still standing.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. Purdue Northwest go for what would have been a great wraparound play to pick off Potato God, but Volibear happy to just walk back towards that tower. And meanwhile, the rest of Contingent Esports just picking up camps, picking up advantages across the rest of the map. Udon Bidon maybe with the overeager ultimate right here. They W on 4, but that just means that both of them are going to be rooted up by the Everfrost proc from RE10. Cuddle Snuffles coming through, going to get the knock up alongside the Abyssal Dive from the Tom Kench, and RE10 gets that one. Taponer runs towards tower, has the flashback. Udon Bidon is dead yet again, and more kills for Contingent Esports for basically nothing. Ping's coming out. They may just grab the Baron Nashor.
You can see the desperation setting in for Purdue Northwest. They're trying to find anything. They're throwing out the Glacial Fissure. They want to find a pick, but it's just so difficult to pick up anything. And coming up short is so hard punished here. It's going to be 2 kills, and it's going to be very likely the Baron given over.
Yeah, and it will go into Contingent Esports' hands, and now RE10 with the play from across the wall. Cuddle Snuffles flashes on in, isolates the ISO Syndra from the rest of their teammates, and Solendric just has to watch as it's a murder of the mid laner.
Wow, Contingent Esports in this game looking so solid. They can go towards this bot lane, go try to pick up the third Cloud Drake. Rift Herald still in the pocket as well for Potato God. Not much longer to use that one, so we'll have to see if it gets dropped here in the near future. Yeah, going to be sent to the mid lane, maybe just to buy pressure. We'll see if they walk it in and try to take the tier 2 mid tower as well.
Yeah, and now you find Purdue Northwest in an awkward situation because you do want to stop Contingent Esports Dragon stacking, but you're going to lose a whole lot mid between the Baron buff and Shelly bearing down onto this tier 2. I think they can only play defensively. Here's the catch to the backline. Potato God comes in from a rooted up by Varus ultimate, but here comes the cross through. No use Sync and ISO able to help zone away members. Hungry to get another kill against Purdue Northwest. Udon Bidon able to get back towards their fountain, but they're going to be losing an inhibitor here at the 24-minute mark.
Yeah, you gotta fight at some point. The inhib going down looks like they won't be pushing any further, just falling back towards this Drake instead. But at some point, despite the fact that you're down 12k, you gotta make a base defense here, so it's just a matter of when Purdue Northwest are gonna make that call.
Yeah, and we do see Contingent Esports back off for the time being. They're just going to claim themselves another Cloud Dragon, but Purdue Northwest really unable to send reinforcements to stop the split that's coming through from RE10 now. Cuddle Snuffles happy to just go topside. They have the teleport available, and the cross map really coming through clutch. Contingent Esports doing so well for themselves. Pearsalt, though, in a bit of trouble. They're going to flash across the far side of the pillar and just melt down multiple members of Purdue Northwest. They go unstoppable. Pearsalt popping off.
If ever there was going to be a pick to be had, it was going to be that one. Purdue Northwest are in major trouble. They're going to have to defend the base 3v5, and they're going to be up against the full brunt of Contingent Esports coming towards the Nexus Towers.
Yeah, they're trying to crash down and end this right here, right now. Udon, Bdon, W's back. Will be able to make it towards the Nexus once again and to heal up. Pearsalt goes low at a sliver of health, but unfortunately, Zillion Ultimate gonna run out on them, so they were going to stay with that 100 and like it. Here's the push forward. Cylindric maybe looking for an engage. They need to be able to pick off one of these Contingent Esports members and get some gold back to their team, but Contingent with a solid call, just backing off for the time being. ISO from the far side, though. There's the burst down. Pearsalt stays alive, though, and manages to get the kill back. Everything Purdue does ends in failure. Contingent Esports somehow able to keep everybody alive, and they look for the re-engage. All right, here's the push forward. Please dodge Phil. Jungle has to use their W, convert that all to a shield. Toponer eventually going to work through that one, though, so that is a shutdown. One kill over to Purdue. As a response, they are down so much right now, though, and maybe they can get a tier 1. Potato God actually staying behind, not even going to back with the rest of their team as the Baron buff expires. They're looking to just mount the defense. We'll see whether or not this will cost them. Braum passive is activated on them, but Potato God stays alive. And Purdue knows that they can't push further, that they can't actually go for this play because of the re-arrival of Cuddle Snuffles and RE10.
Yeah, please dodge Phil. Jungle is able to snuff out the TP flank from ISO, devouring Pearsalt and giving that big shield in addition to immuning him from getting hit by that QE combo. Such a big play there. Ends up dying on the back end, but much better to have your Tom Kench died and have your fed 10-1 Varus give over that 700 gold bounty.
Yeah, ISO with that hero play actually completely caught me off guard. I wasn't looking at the minimap and I wasn't zoomed out far enough. I thought that they had it with the burst, but really heads up play from Contingent yet again. They continue to preserve that bounty.
Yeah, this is just such an oppressive team comp from ahead. When you can't kill anyone off, that just makes it impossible to play.
Yeah, Potato God taking ISO's flash on cooldown. They have to go back over the wall to the safety of the remaining team members. Here's the re-engage, though. Potato God slowed down by Trundle Pillar. Here comes the ultimate from Braum down the choke point to make sure that Contingent can't continue to push. But Cuddle Snuffles is just going to wade on into the melee. Here's the ult. Scatter the Weak comes out from ISO. Potato God reasserting themselves in this lane now. Moving as 5. Contingent Esports want to take this other inhibitor. They want to push back into the base, and they want to continue to assert pressure, just get priority, and hopefully from there leverage this into another Baron take or a Dragon Soul.
Yeah, they're having a decent bit of patience here. They're having a hard time pushing through the base without Baron, without that Cloud Soul, but not giving over any kills, so that's the important piece here. Let those objectives spawn and then fight around them.
Yeah, and we do see the move as multiple members of Contingent Esports try to go up towards that Baron Nashor. It's spawning up in less than a minute now. Ping's coming through. I think that they are just going to start and turn. Really, what else can Purdue Northwest do but try to contest here? They can't withstand the pressure of another full Baron push in, but at the same time, I think Contingent have all the time in the world to just start hitting down the big purple worm, and even with the debuff it provides, Purdue Northwest is going to have a lot of trouble fighting the 5v5. Potato God maybe a little bit caught out there, getting slowed down by Braum Qs, but eventually just gets back to their team. And once again, Contingent just happy to regroup and play as this death ball.
Yeah, and in that last fight, I think that we saw ISO ult Cuddle Snuffles and do like 300 damage. So that's just emblematic of the situation we're in the game. Now starting up the Baron is Contingent Esports.
Yeah, we see the Void Missiles come on through, but everybody's still relatively healthy on Contingent Esports side. The knockup from Udon Bidong not really followed up on. We do see the peel off, though. Contingent Esports not going to continue to push the issue around the Baron. Excuse me. Potato got maybe a bit caught out there as the pillar comes down. But now Purdue Northwest, actually with a bit of a health advantage, they may try to leverage this into a fight around the next dragon. Potato got at about half health. It'll be tough for him to get into the pit, but can the gold advantage just make up for all of this as we see the approach? Cuddle Stuffles trying to get on in. Pure Salt not far behind, gets slowed down, but he has the range to boot. This bear is so darn scary as we see Cuddle Stuffles rush into the melee. It will be Purdue Northwest picking up the dragon, but can they get a kill? ISO goes low. It's the double with the Q from Pure Salt. He's gonna burn all his summoner spells to continue to claim more and more damage against the enemy team. Here comes the pentakill!
Pentakill! And everyone gets rounded up into that dragon pit. Yes, they're able to take the Cloud Drake, take the soul off the map, but what does it matter when you get aced 5-0? And the base is the next target here. Contingent Esports with a dominant fashion 2-0 here in today's matchup, and going to be able to make it on the top side of that playoff bracket for UML.
What a turnaround from early on in this series. UML has been a rough ride for Contingent Esports. They went 0-2 in their first week, but Tiger, even up against the top competitor here, Purdue Northwest, we see them answer back, gain the momentum they need, and as you said, they have reasserted themselves at the top of the standings in this Ocean Division.
Such a clutch performance by all of the members here, especially Jungle Dodge, please Phil. Please dodge Phil Jungle. I got all the words backwards while I was
Jungle,
waiting.
please, Phil Dodge.
Well, whatever the case, the support here for Contingent Esports coming up clutch on the Tom Kench, making sure no one could get taken down here throughout Game 2. And with that 2-0 victory, they should be having not only that upper bracket playoff spot, but a lot of momentum going in.
Yeah, incredible display here. Contingent Esports come back in a rough game number 1. They were down 2,000, 3,000 gold at multiple points, but they just were able to stick together. They kept their mental strong. They got 2 good back-to-back team fights, and from there, they steamrolled the game. Here, there was no contest from beginning to end. Contingent Esports, with that gold lead, able to pop off and continue to twist the knife into Purdue Northwest. It's a deserved victory for sure, and the 2-0 coming out here is going to put them on great track as we move to the playoffs.
I really like the adjustment we saw here from Contingent Esports between Game 1 and Game 2, because in Game 1, like we were saying, it was back and forth. They had to make the comeback to come out on top. But I think that by switching the draft to having that Tom Kench and Zillion, they made it so that once they had a little bit of a foothold into the game, there was just no counterplay available. So I love the draft choice here on the Contingent side. I definitely want to give Purdue Northwest some credit here. They had some moments throughout this series, especially in Game 1, they looked pretty good. And obviously, coming in 2-0, they are one of the stronger teams in this league. But we'll have to see if they can come back in playoffs and come out with some victories. But a great day for Contingent Esports fans.
Yeah, for sure. You can't overstate how good it is that they're able to move up the bracket here in the Ocean Division, because you just have to play so few matches in order to make your way to grand finals. There's no crazy losers bracket run that you're basically seeded into from the start if you stay near the bottom of the standings. So Contingent saving themselves a lot of heartache, a lot of sweat and tears here, and hopefully this will give them the time to practice and continue to push forward with the advantages that they clearly have.
Well, with all of that in mind, going into the next weeks, I'm hoping that we'll see some more Contingent Esports victories on the road to the championship, and I think that if we see anything like we saw today, they showed that they can win from any circumstance.
For sure. And also, you guys will want to stay tuned because every single day of the week, we are trying to bring you some solid content here from Contingent Esports. It's not only the premier team that gets their game streamed, guys, it's multiple days per week Monday, Thursday, Friday. We have content for you guys. And these are all great teams who, in their respective leagues, are popping off. So make sure that you guys stay tuned. We will be going live very frequently, and hopefully, we'll be expanding in the future, bringing back some tournaments, bringing through some new content, maybe some other games. Who is to say? But overall, it's a great time to be a Contingent Esports fan. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Tiger, so much for being my color caster for tonight, coming in at the last moment. As a Phil, you did a great job, and it was great to talk through these plays with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a fantastic time here. Even got to see the pentakill right at the end of the game, bringing some hype in, and hopefully I can be back for some more casts in the future. I had a great time with this, and I think that looks like a really good team that has a chance to make a deep playoff run.
For sure. We're going to be watching with rapt interest for sure. And meanwhile, we also have Uraazi manning the helm yet again. And I got to shout them out as per usual. They are carrying these casts. They are the ones behind the scenes working as the dark horse to make sure that everything runs smoothly and that you guys get the best experience possible out there. And thank you to you guys out there, actually. You viewers are what make Contingent Esports what it is. It is the reason why I love coming through and casting for you guys. And so, with that in mind, we are going to head off for the night. But as always, thank you for watching and have a good one.